Hey everybody, today I'm going to be going over how to set up Trilium. Trilium is a note-taking app, and it's been getting updates for a very long time. It's completely open source. It's very cool. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. It's very powerful for once you do get it set up, and it's a really nice note-taking app. If you're familiar with Obsidian or other README type applications, it's just like that. Although this one is a little bit different in the sense that it's not technically README. It's like a mixture between HTML and README. I'm not exactly sure where it falls in those veins, but it is really cool. I've been using it for quite a while. You can see here, just for an instance, I did my CCAD and I brought this. I actually took this in Obsidian, but I transferred it over, and you can see all these notes that I have with him, and then all the screenshots that coincide with it. It's pretty cool stuff, and you can kind of see how things are laid out. Yeah, the screenshots can actually just be in it, but since I transferred this over, it's not that case in this instance. What we're going to be doing today, and kind of the goal here, and you can kind of see this up here, is that we're going to be hosting a Trilium server on one of our own domains. In this case, this is my Johnny Dietz domain, and I'm doing it on the subdomain notes. So you can see this is my subdomain, and I can access it from anywhere. Like, it doesn't have to be at home, it can be on any computer, any place I want to be. I can access all of my notes. Now, you can say, oh, how will that be secured? Is that secure? What about security of that, right? And that is what we're going to be tackling today. So I'm going to open a new private window, and I'm going to go here, and you're going to see GitLab. So this is actually my GitLab instance, which is also being hosted in my cluster. And when I went to notes, it took me to GitLab. And the reason being is that I have an OAuth2 proxy that stops you from going to notes unless you're authenticated through GitLab. So some really cool stuff we're going to be doing today. And one other thing I want to show off, basic properties, and then if I hit shared, you get this link here. And if I open this in a private window, you're going to see, unlike what I just saw when I went to notes, because I'm going on the /share route, you can see it. You can see all my notes. And what this allows us to do is essentially, let's say I'm taking some notes for a meeting at work or a class that I'm taking. I can very quickly, just through a toggle of a button, share it out. And if I turn this off, right, and if I hit refresh, not found. So really cool stuff here, where you get some very powerful ability to share what you want to share, hide what you want to hide, and have it as secure as it needs to be, because we're using an OAuth2 provider that in this case will be our GitLab instance. So yeah, today this is going to be our agenda. We're going to be going first over the overview of Trilium and the OAuth2 proxy. Then we're going to be doing the Trilium setup and install, and then the OAuth2 setup and install, then an ingress creation and the routing for that ingress, and then we're just going to verify that everything works. With this, I kind of want to go ahead and start by going over the architecture that we're going to be using, or how everything's going to be kind of connected and how everything's going to be working. So we have our user and we have our Trilium server, right? This is the Trilium logo. This is just a placeholder for our user. And what's going to be happening is we're going to be going over our domain, in this case our subdomain notes.example.com, and this is going to be hitting our OAuth2 proxy. This is the logo for OAuth2 proxy, and he will be our middleman. So instead of just accessing Trilium directly, you're going to actually, technically you're going to hit Trilium first. Trilium is going to say you're unauthenticated, and you're going to get redirected to OAuth. OAuth is going to then redirect you to GitLab. You're going to be authenticated through GitLab. It's going to bring you back to OAuth. OAuth then will send you downstream to Trilium. So this case is what's actually ensuring that a session is created, and OAuth2 is verifying that, hey, you have a session, so you're allowed to hit this downstream application. And then the other step of this is we're going to have a bypass that says, hey, if you are on this specific domain where this prefix is here, then you will be able to hit Trilium directly. And this is what allows you to hit that, like, allows you to share your notes out. You don't have to do this portion, but this is a very nice to have. We're gonna be setting up 2 Helm charts overall. One Helm chart is gonna be for the OAuth and setting the values in him, and then another Helm chart is for the Trilium server. Setting these up, the Trilium one really doesn't have much that you're gonna have to tweak. The OAuth has a few things that you're gonna have to update, but it's nothing too crazy. And then on top of this, we're gonna be setting up 3 different ingresses. So the ingresses for this are gonna be 1 for the OAuth provider, 1 for Trilium, and then 1 for the public route. So this is kind of setting everything up. The Trilium one is what actually tells, hey, when you reach out to Trilium initially, it's gonna say, oh, you don't have an authenticated session. Let me send you over to this OAuth provider. The OAuth provider ingress will just exist on the web. Once you get a session, then everything downstream can happen. And then obviously the third is just a bypass that allows this path to exist publicly. And yeah, and that should be everything that we're gonna need for today. So I'm in the cluster right now, and the first thing we need to do is we need to create a PVC. PVC is a persistent volume claim. I'm using Longhorn as my management storage system. And for this, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna just create a claim. It'll make a persistent volume once you create a claim. And you can see here, I already have one, PVC Trilium. But just for this case and to prove everything's working, I'm gonna reset everything up in a separate instance with a lot less memory because it doesn't need it. But this is gonna be Trilium test for my case. I'm gonna name it Trilium-PVC, and I'm going to request just 1 gig of storage. So let's go ahead and create this. So the reason why we need to create the persistent volume claim for Trilium is that the Trilium Helm chart doesn't do a good job with it. For whatever reason, when I would use the Helm chart, it just didn't create the persistent volume claim. So I found that creating it on my own and then actually installing the Helm chart seemed to work every single time, whereas the alternative I couldn't get working. Maybe you'll have better luck, but in this case, this is why we're doing this as the first step. And you can see here, it is bound, so everything here should be good. The next step is we're gonna actually just install Trilium. To install Trilium, you're going to first have to add the repository. And that repository is this URL as the type HTTP. And like we've done before, you hit create, you'll type the name, and then you'll paste in that URL under HTTPS and hit create. I didn't copy it, so that's why it didn't pop up. But then we're gonna go over to charts. It should load. If it doesn't load right away, you can hit this refresh. It should load it after a little bit. And then we're gonna hit Trilium. We're gonna hit install. We're gonna hit Trilium test as the namespace. In my instance, ideally there should be just Trilium. And then here is the next page. So there is some things to change here, and I will bring up the notes that I have here to make our life a little bit easier to see exactly what we need to change. In this case, I changed the instance name to Trilium. Keep it simple. I turn no authentication to true because we're using the OAuth2 proxy. There's no reason to use Trilium's authentication. I have a separate instance of something to provide that for me. They do provide a login for you, but I believe that if you log in, then it's not based on your session, it's based on if someone's currently logged in, which doesn't work on the internet, right? Because like if I log in, then anyone else who hits that point is now technically logged in because I'm logged in. It's not like session based, from what I understand. I could be wrong, but from what I understand, it's that way. So that's why I just turned this off, and then we're doing this OAuth, this whole route for this. I leave no backup set to false because I want backups. The host here, this will be unique. What you can see here is we're gonna want HTTPS set to false because this is for setting up HTTPS in your cluster. If you're doing it within your cluster, I'm not doing it within my cluster. HTTPS is only on the ingress into the to the cluster, but once you're in the cluster, no HTTPS. Some companies and businesses have different restrictions. I personally don't think it's super important, because if you get in the cluster, you know, I think there's bigger issues. If someone's in the cluster able to, you know, spoof a route, they're in the cluster, they're able to do way more than that. So like having it within it doesn't really give you any benefit. One thing you need to add or make sure it's true is trusted reverse proxy, which it seems like it defaults to true. And then down here, it adds this env key value. I'm not adding anything for this. I just actually deleted in my instance. Yeah. And then the other thing that we do want to update is the repository and the tag. So the tag that is actually the latest. So if we actually just take a stroll over to the Trilium Docker Hub on Trilium Next, we will go to tags and we will see the latest tag is 100. You could use latest or you could use stable. They seem pretty consistent, but I'm just going to pull a specific tag personally and update when I seem fit. But you could do like set this to always and then just have it pull the latest and then just restart the pod anytime you want to force an update. I don't think that's a good idea, but you can do that. And then here's the data. We have an existing claim. You're going to name it the same as that existing claim. In my instance, for this test one, mine is Trilium-PVC. In this instance, for the guide, it's these reversed. So with this is all we need to be able to set this up, and we can go ahead and hit next and hit install. I actually like to reduce the timeout here because it shouldn't take that long to install. And I need to do something on Cloudflare real quick, so give me a second. Yeah, I have to make sure that route exists for that domain name, so let me go ahead and add that in. I'm pretty sure I've been doing this wrong. I could probably use CNAMEs for all this. I'm not 100% sure, but I've just been keeping it simple. I'm sure someone can come in here and be like, oh, you don't want to do it that way, yada yada yada. And then now we have that domain actually pointing, that subdomain pointing to this area. So next we're gonna add the repo for OAuth2. To add the repo, it's gonna be this domain. It's gonna be in the description below. And then, like always, we add the name OAuth2. It's gonna be HTTP. Once we add this, then we're gonna hit charts. We're gonna hit OAuth2 proxy. We're gonna hit install. And in here, I'm just gonna make it simple, OAuth2. I'm gonna hit customize, hit values. And then this gives you so many different options, and quite a bit of it are things that we're gonna have to set up. So in here, you can see it needs a client ID, a client secret, and a cookie secret. And also we have to add some extra args. Now these extra args are based on what OIDC that you're going to be using. In this case, I am going to be using GitLab as my OIDC issuer, and that's my own GitLab instance. So you can see here, this is the URL. It's under my own domain, Johnny Dietz. And then you're going to have to specify a scope. The scope is OpenID, profile, and email. That's all you should need. You shouldn't need anything other access credentials than that. The email domain, I just left it as any, reverse proxy true, cookie secure true, set authorization, pass, and then it's setting headers. So that should be all of that. And then you want to pick the latest stable value for the tag, which we can leave undefined, or we can come over here, go OAuth2 proxy on Red Hat. You can see here we have these different images. I'm just gonna pull 7.13.0. You usually want to pull the latest versions for security reasons. Always make sure you get the latest ones. I think if you leave it empty, it should just pull the latest. So it defaults to that. It's your choice. And then we're actually gonna turn ingress off In this case, we could turn the ingress for the OAuth2 provider on here. I didn't do this because I decided, hey, I'm actually going to do all my ingresses together all at once. It's your choice if you want to set it up here. I personally didn't. I decided not to. That should be everything that we're going to need. I'm actually going to turn metrics off. This doesn't really matter to me. I personally just don't use metrics in these cases, so I just turn them off. And then before we hit create, we have to go to our OAuth2 provider. For GitLab's instance, we're gonna go to settings, and then we're gonna hit applications. In applications, we're gonna add a new application. This is gonna be Trilium -test for me, but just Trilium for you. We're gonna add a redirect URL. The redirect URL is gonna be HTTPS notes to your domain and then /OAuth2/callback. And then, like I said, we're gonna need specific scopes here. We need OpenID, profile, and email. So let's hit save application. And then you're gonna get your application ID, which is this right here. And I'm gonna paste that in here with client ID, boom. And then your secret, you're gonna paste that right here. And then we're gonna need a cookie secret and a cookie name. So we can just create this, right? So Trilium cookie secret, and then this seems a little weird that you have to create it, but it's just a unique identifier for your cookie. It's nothing outside of that. So there you go. Let me get rid of that. And then here's my cookie secret. Nothing too crazy, but something that works really fast. And then, yeah, and that should be everything that you actually need for your OAuth2 provider. So let's go ahead and create him. I'm going to create a Let's Encrypt issuer. So I'm actually going to kubectl in here. And I'm actually just going to set this guy up. I need to... If you have a cluster issuer, it's actually just easier for you. I don't have one because I just decided not to go that route. Part of me is regretting not going that route, and I continue to live with my decisions, so I continue to have to deal with it. But that is my choice and doesn't have to be your choice. So I went ahead and made the Cloudflare API token secret. That is for my Trilium test. Again, you won't need to do all of this step necessarily if you're using cluster issuer. I'm not, so I'm having to set all this up. I'm gonna go ahead and make a file, paste this in. Again, I'm using Cloudflare. That's usually my go-to choice. Again, and Let's Encrypt, because Let's Encrypt is pretty useful for exactly this. I actually want to use the staging version of Let's Encrypt. So because I don't want to have this with a proper thing, you get more certificates using staging. So, and then that should be good. And then I just have to change this GitLab right here, which shouldn't have been that, but to Trilium test. And then if I right click and kubectl create -f, and then that should create my issuer. Last thing we need to do is create the ingresses. So I'm gonna come in here and I am going to create a new file. I'm gonna paste all 3 of these ingresses in. So just like this, right? And all I need to do is update what I want to update. So in this case, the namespace is Trilium test. The host name for each one is gonna be notes 2, right? And then Johnny Beats. And then that's done. The first one is done. It's using Let's Encrypt. You can see here, it's even saying for the annotation, Let's Encrypt. Make sure this is the same as your issuer or cluster issuer. And these ones you also want to make sure are correct. So in this case, the auth URL, right? This is pointing to the OAuth2 proxy, which should be running. This is a service, and I can go here and go to my services. And if we look down here at the letter O, OAuth2 proxy, in this case, it's OAuth2-OAuth2 dash proxy. So that's what this will have to be, right? So this will be OAuth2 dash OAuth2 dash proxy in Trilium test, right? Because that is the namespace. And then the rest of this is correct. And then down here, this will be notes2, and then your domain, or notes probably for you, or whatever you want to do for that. And then again, TLS, the backend service, this guy should just be Trilium because that's like the default name for him. So, and so this is correct, right? And you can see him here. So what's essentially the ingresses we're setting up, just to show, this is the Trilium OAuth. So this is saying, hey, on /OAuth, you're going to be going to the OAuth2 proxy. So this is that first ingress. Then this is the second ingress where we're saying, hey, this is the actual Trilium server who's getting hosted, and it requires an auth sign-in. This auth sign-in is on /OAuth, which is handled here, right? So this is OAuth2 proxy. So you have to first sign in on this path, which is OAuth2. Once you're signed in and you have been authenticated, and it verifies that with this, then everything is verified and you can actually log in. So these three annotations are really important. And finally, this last one is the public share. This is fully optional as denoted here. And just to prove that this works, I will come down here and create him. And then again, he's pointing straight to Trilium, but you can see his path is specific to /share, right? Whereas these two, well, this one is specifically to just /, and this one is specifically to OAuth2. And those path names are very important. That's why I have it copied here. You only really want to update the domains for all of these, and obviously the namespaces. But once you have all of this done, we will create this. So all three have been created. Okay, so my OAuth2 had an issue with the cookie secret was 1 character too small. So that's working now. And then this had an issue where I had set the host where I really shouldn't have. But he's working now. And now, if I hit notes2, now for verifying, we're going to try to access it. Okay. So the /OAuth2 was incorrect when I was setting up this ingress. It was OAuth2 OAuth2 proxy. Again, it was the way I was setting it up. I had a feeling this was wrong. This is why you got to double check. Hit save. Now, if I hit this, I think it should find it. Right? Because I got redirected to the OAuth2. OAuth2 forced me to then get redirected to GitLab. GitLab is forcing me to authorize this, so I can just hit authorize. Then you get the Trilium note set up once you're logged in. I'm already logged in because I'm logged into GitLab. So to prove that that's the case, I'm going to hit new private window. I'm going to go to notes2, my URL, my domain. Boom. I get the GitLab interface. If I actually go through this and sign in, then I should get the Trilium notes set up. And what we're going to want to do here is that I'm a new user and I would like to create notes. We're going to hit next as soon as that's set up. And then you get your journal and you get your basic configuration. Boom. Just like that. And this is accessible anywhere on the web. You just have to log in through your own GitLab instance or any other OAuth2 provider that you choose. You can choose Google, you could choose Facebook, you can choose whatever you would like. It is your choice. It's whatever OAuth2, there's plenty of OAuth2 providers that are out there. And yeah, and then this is Trilium. So you get all of the functionality that Trilium gives you. And then just to make sure that everything is working correctly, if I go to this shared URL, I want to make sure that I can actually access this from a user who isn't logged in. If I paste this here, press enter, I can access it. If I go back, if I turn shared off, and if I hit refresh, I can't access it anymore. And I can't access anything on this point If I just go to share, there's no share root found, and all of these, there's nothing. You can't find anything because there's nothing exposed. So with that, that should be everything that we need for our Trilium instance. The next steps forward are us setting up a place for the backups to go for your Trilium instance, because right now it creates backups, but it creates them like local, so you can back up the database now, but this is local to that node, right? This is which that node is only allocating a small amount of memory to it, right? It has 1 gig, so that's all very local. We want to then take this and store it somewhere else. We'll have to create a custom job, a cron job for that. And then, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up what we really need for robust note-taking server. I do think the backups are a pretty crucial element, and I'll make a video in the future showing how to do the cron job and backing up somewhere. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. Please consider subscribing to follow up and see any of the new cluster stuff that I'm going to be doing. And yeah, thanks for watching.